Hi everybody, welcome to Chapter 6 in our Glickman, Gordon, and Ross Gordon textbook. We're going to be talking about the supervisor behavior continuum for the next 6 chapters. Before we start, I want to explain to you what this is. This is not how you supervise teachers, more or less. It relates to how you conference with teachers. If teachers are doing anything that could be an issue, a struggle, a problem, it's what you do and how you conference with the teachers that matters. And this is really what we're going to be looking at in this model for the supervisor behavior continuum. So Oklahoma State does this well. They use this in the Stickle program. So there is a buy-in for this method of supervision and teacher conferencing. Having an understanding of the method and the message of it will help you if you continue in our program or for your professional practice. I definitely think this is one of the most important concepts in class. It's something that you will see in a doctoral program as well. So if that's an end goal or an end game of why you're here and why you're doing this, I personally think it's important that you know and understand this model and what this model looks like. So we've been arguing throughout this class, and I agree with this completely, that supervisors have 3 dimensions. They have interpersonal skills, technical skills, and knowledge. And it's up to the supervisors to use those to effectively analyze and assess a teacher. Interpersonal skills are easy. The supervisor has to be able to relate to the teaching staff. They have to be able to talk to them, work with them, and they have to be able to support them. The teacher should feel comfortable coming to you with a problem and letting you know if there's a problem, and that's one of the things that really relate to why interpersonal skills matter in education. Technical skills. Supervisors have to know how to complete a supervision and treat it with respect. When I look at your final supervision reports, I want to see personally that you've been professional, you've used grammar, spelling, and organization, and you've also been efficient. There is no room for error and no room for mistakes when it comes to writing a supervisory report, especially in a state where it's more contentious. It's not in Oklahoma, but if you go somewhere else where this is your make or break in life, this is important and this is a big idea. Knowledge. Not everybody is going to know specific content level pedagogy. You have to know what good instruction looks like, what student engagement looks like. The Catcher book, why I picked it, it's all on teacher walkthroughs. And I think that's important because if you're in a subject area like biology or advanced calculus, the supervisor might not know what they're doing in that subject area, but another teacher might. So having that relationship and being able to build that is something that's going to be strong for all of you in that position. So there are 4 different approaches to conferencing with teachers. I am not going to cover these in depth during this chapter because each chapter looks at these models. Here's what I kind of want you to know my opinion is on these, but you do what you will. I think this model is a joke, but I think this model is a joke as well. That's just my opinion. I would never operate a school that was directive control or non-directive. They are 2 high extremes on the spectrum where we should be really balancing between collaborative and directive and formal. Am I going to present these 2 models? Yeah, absolutely. Because you need to know what they look like and you need to see them because some of you have probably worked in schools and organizations that have that model. So the goal of each one of these is through an approach and an outcome. Directive control, the supervisor tells you what you do. Directive informational, the supervisor suggests what you do. Collaborative, you work together. Non-directive, the teacher has final say. Those are the big ideas, and that's something that we'll be talking about when we talk about conferencing strategy pretty much for the next bit of time. So the authors use the Johari window concept. Some of you might have heard of this or have used this. I'm going to discuss each of these concepts really related to the self and what it is. When you're doing research on supervision, you'll see that this is one of the biggest ideas related to supervision. So we have this idea that people have a public self, a blind self, a private self, and an unknown self. So we're going to go over all of these. The public self in education is what is known to teachers and what's known to the supervisor. The teachers and supervisors are aware of the supervisor's public self behavior. How the supervisor acts is difficult to change because the public is always going to see the supervisor as one thing or the other. one of the things that our authors say is if you want to know how you're perceived by the public, you should use surveys, observations, and informal conversations to see which of your behaviors are the most difficult and which are the ones to change. The blind self is known to teachers, but not known to the supervisor. I think that this is formed within the first 90 days of a new manager or boss. And that's definitely true in business, but I think it's true in education as well. It's important that the supervisor takes the time to look at this and see how it can impact the relationship with the teachers before a formal evaluation system takes place. The private self, really, this is the part of the behavior that the supervisors keep private, and this is tough. The principals, one of the reasons why principals struggle is because if something's going bad or they have to do something horrible, they have to keep smiling, they have to stay positive. Think about how that eats alive somebody as a person if you have to put on this positive smile and happiness every single day, and what that can do to somebody in the long run. The unknown self is the stuff that the teachers don't know about the supervisor, and the supervisor is unaware of themselves. Remember, the principal, as I've stated over and over again, is the body in the middle. So there are things that central administration will change that the principal has no control over, and the teachers don't understand why it's being changed. And all stakeholders are impacted and they end up as a surprise. In a lot of ways, this is when a new teacher evaluation system comes into play. What does it look like? Who does it affect? And what does that mean in the long-term grand scheme of things in education? So we have this notion of cognitive dissonance. This is basically that somebody thinks of themselves in one way while others indicate that they're different. And I always use the cat looking and seeing himself as a lion, and because we all do in some form or another. When supervisor uses different approaches to what the teacher expects, or the supervisor tells a teacher they're not doing up to standards, that does create this. And remember what I say about teachers. Teachers always have a high opinion of themselves, and because of that, it makes it difficult as a principal to assess that and to challenge that notion. So I use this system, and it's something that I strongly believe in. I love the notion of a 360-degree evaluation. I like to have input from multiple levels. I like focusing on a skills-based perspective. I think it's important to have an objective measure of performance, and if you use a multi-rater feedback where you're looking at peers, people directly above you, people directly below you, sometimes people 2 levels above you or 2 levels below you, it makes a more legally defensible evaluation as well. Student evaluations are important, and I value those myself as an instructor. I think student evaluations mean a lot more than a lot of people give them credit for. So the next chapter really looks at directive control. As I said, this is a worst case scenario approach, but you have to understand this model because there are going to be supervisors that you work with that use it, so I think it's important to cover it. So, like I said, these are quick chapters, quick overviews, and quick videos, but I think they're important. Thank you.